The third industry milestone product, Macintosh.
Serious disagreements with Apple's CEO John Sculley, Steve left the company in 1985. Tell us about your departure from Apple.
Oh, it was very painful. I'm not even sure I want to talk about it. What can I say? I hired the wrong guy.
That was Sculley?
Yeah. And he destroyed everything I'd spent 10 years working for. Starting with me.
Good morning. Today, we're going to introduce 4 new products. This is what it looks like. It's called Next Station. It's a slab, monitor, keyboard, the mouse, the software. One of the neatest things to me is that we have been recognized as having the most automated factory in the computer business.
off hundreds of workers. That same year, Apple's CEO John Sculley resigned after a series of failed projects and bad sales. For Pixar, 1993 proved to be equally discouraging. Disney stopped production of their feature film, Toy Story.
It was a very difficult time. It was a period when we thought we might, in fact, be shut down altogether and the film might never be made. But John Lasseter and his crew of story artists and the whole team really came together and turned around what had been a difficult situation, made the characters and the story much more interesting, and we then forged ahead and got Toy Story made.
Toy Story premiered in November of 1995 and became an instant blockbuster. Steve Jobs saw his opportunity. Despite his success with Pixar, Jobs didn't forget about his other company, Next. He was looking at an unlikely partnership. His old company, Apple, on its second CEO after Sculley and plagued by financial losses.
Steve Jobs got back into talks with Apple, a company he had been away from for more than a decade. So Apple and Next did a deal for $400 million to buy Next software.
Steve Jobs went back to Apple after 11 years, at first as an advisor, but his role grew when it lost its CEO.
Almost immediately, Steve Jobs filled the void, filled the power vacuum, and essentially took control of the company.
Jobs was named interim CEO, and he made some immediate changes. He eliminated dozens of projects and employees in an effort to cut costs. In August of 1998, he introduced the iMac.
Instead of being a boring old box like every other computer in the market, it had this beautiful, curved, sculptural profile. And instead of just being bland beige like every other computer, it came in different, bright, fruit-flavored colors.
The iMac was a huge success. In its first 6 weeks, it became the fastest-selling Macintosh product in Apple history. In January 2000, he announced his permanent new position.
I'm pleased to announce today that I'm going to drop the interim title.
The excitement at Apple wouldn't last.
I'd like to talk about our digital hub strategy. What is that? We introduced this strategy in January 2001. That's 15 months ago. It is a strategy. And the strategy is that personal computers will become the center, or as we say, the digital hub of our new digital lifestyle. We've got digital camcorders. We've got DVD players. We've got portable MP3 music players. And we've got the incredible explosion of digital cameras. And we believe that personal computers are going to sit at the center of those devices, not off to the side, but at the heart. Now, a personal...
Thanks for coming today. So, we have something really exciting for you. So, we looked at this and studied all these, and that's where we want to be. That is where we want to be. And we are introducing a product today that takes us exactly there, and that product is called iPod. iMac, iBook, iPod. There it is, right there. This is a day I've been looking forward to for 2.5 years. Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone. And here it is. I'm honored to be with you today. Truth be told, I never graduated from college. Today, I want to tell you 3 stories from my life. That's it. So why'd I drop out? It started before I was born. My biological mother was a young, unwed graduate student, and she decided to put me up for adoption. She felt very strongly that I should be adopted by college graduates, so everything was all set for me to be adopted at birth by a lawyer and his wife. My biological mother found out later that my mother had never graduated from college and that my father had never graduated from high school. She refused to sign the final adoption papers. She only relented a few months later when my parents promised that I would go to college. This was the start in my life. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life and no idea how college was going to help me figure it out. And here I was, spending all the money my parents had saved their entire life. So I decided to drop out and trust that it would all work out okay. The minute I dropped out, I could stop taking the required classes that didn't interest me and begin dropping in on the ones that looked far more interesting. It wasn't all romantic. I didn't have a dorm room, so I slept on the floor in friends' rooms. I returned Coke bottles for the 5-cent deposits to buy food with. And I would walk the 7 miles across town every Sunday night to get 1 good meal a week at the Hare Krishna temple. I loved it. I decided to take a calligraphy class to learn how to do this. It was beautiful, historical, artistically subtle in a way that science can't capture. And I found it fascinating. None of this had even a hope of any practical application in my life. But 10 years later, when we were designing the first Macintosh computer, it all came back to me. And we designed it all into the Mac. It was the first computer with beautiful typography. If I had never dropped in on that single course in college, the Mac would have never had multiple typefaces or proportionally spaced fonts. And since Windows just copied the Mac, it's likely that no personal computer would have them. My second story is about love and loss. I was lucky. I found what I loved to do early in life. Woz and I started Apple in my parents' garage when I was 20. The turn of events at Apple had not changed that one bit. I'd been rejected, but I was still in love. And so I decided to start over. I didn't see it then, but it turned out that getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again, less sure about everything. It freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life. During the next 5 years, I started a company named Next, another company named Pixar, and fell in love with an amazing woman who would become my wife. Pixar went on to create the world's first computer animated feature film, Toy Story, and is now the most successful animation studio in the world. And Lorene and I have a wonderful family together. I'm pretty sure none of this would have happened if I hadn't been fired from Apple. It was awful tasting medicine, but I guess the patient needed it. My third story is about death. When I was 17, I read a quote that went something like, "If you live each day as if it was your last, someday you'll most certainly be right." It made an impression on me, and since then, for the past 33 years, I have looked in the mirror every morning and asked myself, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I am about to do today? About a year ago, I was diagnosed with cancer. I had a scan at 7:30 in the morning, and it clearly showed a tumor on my pancreas. I didn't even know what a pancreas was. The doctors told me this was almost certainly a type of cancer that is incurable and that I should expect to live no longer than 3 to 6 months. My doctor advised me to go home and get my affairs in order, which is doctor's code for prepare to die. It means to try and tell your kids everything. You thought you'd have the next 10 years to tell them in just a few months. And that is as it should be, because death is very likely the single best invention of life. It's life's change agent. It clears out the old to make way for the new. Right now, the new is you. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Stay hungry, stay foolish. Thank you all very much.